know what we need to do in order to maintain a healthy and strong body into our aging years. Unfortunately, we don't always do it. My guest today is David Frost. He is a master rower, a master fitness trainer, and he's gained experience and expertise as a mentor towards others in achieving what he calls healthitude, a good attitude about health. We're going to talk about a lot of things today, but we are going to spend some time talking on Dave's 7S habits that is a framework for good, healthy living. So you're going to want to listen to this. Tune in, stay tuned, listen up to this episode of Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60. In today's world, older adults face major transitions like downsizing, relocating, or modifying their homes to age in place, all while embracing life after these changes. As a senior home advisor and seasoned realtor, Robin McCoy guides these decisions with care and thoughtful planning, helping create a vibrant future. Welcome to Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60 with me, your host, Robin McCoy. Dave, thank you so much for being on the show today. We're going to talk all about how to stay fit and healthy into our chapter 3, if you will.
So happy to be here, Robin, and certainly a pleasure to chat. And hopefully we can pass along a few tips, tricks, and hacks for folks to help them on their journeys. We want to thrive and strive, after all, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It seems to me like it's almost an extreme. Either people are super fit and they're 78 years old and they're running marathons, or they are 68 years old and using mobility devices. And there's those extremes that are everywhere. And I think a lot of us really truly are kind of in the middle there. I don't run marathons. And I don't want to, by the way. No.
I would offer that even if you did a few is enough for reasons we can talk about.
What they say is, how do you know somebody ran a marathon? Because they'll tell you.
Isn't
They'll
that
let you
the
know.
truth? Yeah,
So,
isn't that the
so
truth?
let's hear a little bit about your background. So you're a rower. Is that how we say that? How about Miss Kelsey, huh?
I'll tell you, I knew her predecessor, a wonderful lady named Angela Madsen, who was unfortunately on her trans-Pacific, I mean the entire Pacific solo
Wow.
voyage. They don't know exactly why, but she either had a heart attack or went over the side to fix her keel and died. So yes, we all followed a very sunburned young lady on her cruise to Hawaii. People ask me would I do that, and I say right now I'm happy with my records I've set for 24 hours. So
Very
there
good.
is, in fact, just working on the final touches for a brief next week for the MedFit Educational Foundation, which shares that we certainly it's a U kind of a U curve. Doing nothing is bad, as you shared. That's the extreme. Over at the other extreme is doing too much. She probably, I hope she's going to, this wonderful Trans-Pacific rower, single rower, is going to take time off because she's got inflammation and fatigue out the wazoo. But the Goldilocks point at the bottom of the U is kind of where we want to be. Not too much, not too little. And
Yeah.
that's the key. That's the simple yet hard key, Robin. How much is enough to lessen our chances for bad things like cardiovascular disease or strokes, but not so much that you're constantly getting sick, you're overtrained, you're injured, those kinds of things. So and oh, by the way, sports physiologists say they need another decade to make an individual algorithm that fits Robin or fits Dave or
Oh, really?
even because each of us is different
Sure.
in how we approach the volume, the intensity, and the tempo of our endeavors. So wonderful, sort of a wonderful lead in. It's a loaded
Yeah.
one. Goldilocks is a simple concept, right? We all heard that as a kid.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
U curve is really, really true. You don't want too much for inflammation. Back to your comment about a marathon. Do you know how much weight an average sized adult loses in a marathon?
No idea.
1 pound of fat. Now you lose water, of course, no matter how much you
Sure.
hydrate. 1 pound of fat. I can think of a lot better ways like portion control than running 42,195 meters. I've done it. I've loved it. I've agonized through them and I've sailed through them, depending on things like how well I trained, how much the muscle between my
Yeah,
ears
yeah.
worked,
This one.
and just the experience. So it was a wonderful thing. But now I find out that we create a cytokine storm. We remember COVID, unfortunately, it's PTSD from COVID.
Right.
The little protein messengers in our body, when they sense inflammation, they call in the cavalry. And if that becomes a storm, what they call the cytokine storm, you got big issues. You know, you can't beat the virus back. But guess what we do in running something like a marathon or an ultra event? We're creating a mini cytokine rain, not a storm. And if we have too much, that's bad. So my answer is too much of a good thing is not wonderful. Remember Goldilocks. Run a marathon for the experience, not to tell others about it. Keep it a secret. But that when you do, celebrate it, but know that you're actually doing a disservice to your body
Kind of
if you do it
damaging some things.
if you do it too often. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So give us a little bit of your history. You've got, you're in the Naval Academy, you got master's degrees, you've written books, you've done all these things. So kind of give us the Cliff Notes version so people know they should trust you.
So I was born on the crest of a wave and rocked in the cradle of the deep. No, I was a chubby kid, second of 7 kids, Happy Days family. Grew up in New Jersey, born in Vermont. Was lucky enough to matriculate at the Naval Academy, and I could not get in there now. The classes are smaller, and 1/3 of the classes are very talented women, which is extraordinarily great for our Navy Marine Corps team. But probably would have meant I didn't get into the Naval Academy if I tried today. So I won't apologize for my age and treachery. But I was lucky enough to cut my teeth in a sport that continues to be my livelihood, my passion to this day, which is the sport of rowing. Navy is one of two. In the old days, colleges represented the United States of America in the Olympic Games, and the U.S. Naval Academy represented the USA 1920, 1952, and 1960 with 2 gold medals. But now it's a national team, of course, which you tap the best from all the schools. But anyway, I'm kind of proud to say that only Yale and the Naval Academy have 3 Olympic crews to their
There
credit.
you go.
So that's a little bit of a pedigree. I didn't go to the Olympics. I didn't qualify for the U.S. Olympic men's team to go to Montreal. And then in 1980, of course, Jimmy Carter canceled the Olympics, but I got involved in masters rowing instead, which to me is kind of cool.
Cool.
Just kind of, I don't tell people, but there's paperwork that says, yes, I've set world records for ultra events. So
There you
it,
go. That's good.
it, trying to manage Goldilocks, but for occasionally it's okay to do a little bit extra. So yeah, so after my naval career, when the Russians were coming, Red Storm rising, those kinds of things, I went into business. And when I got to my older age, I found out that corporations really seem to lose their heart and not be interested in my work-life balance. Now, I think we're getting better at that because Gen Y almost demands it now.
Yeah.
We didn't know.
Yeah.
We got 2 weeks of vacation a year, and we're told to work. We work on Saturdays,
Yeah.
Sundays, and nights, right, Robin? But
That's right.
I decided to try small business. If I didn't like the chain of command that I worked for in business, how about I become my own boss and see how that worked? So I founded Well Past 40 to share my own journey through highs and lows, from spinal fusion surgery to skin cancers to things like that, and how to adapt for the dulce vita, as I call it. And I could explain that. But so I've been trying to spread the message that there's your calendar age, which it's your birthright. You have a birth certificate that said you were born Dave on February 20th, 1953. But how young do you feel, and how do you perform in your fitness years or your gym years?
Yeah.
And my challenge to folks is, if they take a look at that, You don't have to await the gold watch of retirement and lapse and slip slide into sloth behavior. Stay active. That's an intervention. And I think it's a fun intervention, Robin, that people should get excited about. That if you pick the right activities, it's not boring, it's not terrible. Yes, I want you to sweat or glisten for the ladies, but I want it to be fun so that you maintain it as a successful habit. We do know over and over, studies have shown that genes really take over when we're in our 80s. So I've still got almost a decade to go before my mom and dad
Before
determine,
the genetics kick in.
or at least as the front burner, the driver.
Yeah. Yeah.
Until then, it's your what you've done, the lifestyle that you've developed, and I call it the anti-glothic lifestyle, which is don't be gluttonous or don't be a sloth. Don't be slothful. Two of the original sins. And, those are simple things. I always say, go back and watch Gilligan's Island. I think people our age remember Gilligan's Island. And I think it's true that the seven original sins were reflected in those characters.
Yeah.
Sloth
Yeah.
was Gilligan. Gluttonous might have been the captain. But anyway, but
It's
what
funny. I never really thought of that, but I think you're probably right.
I think the writers were extraordinarily elegant, if they almost Shakespearean, if that is indeed true. But I'll buy it. But
Yeah.
so I talk about anti-glothic behavior to help us thrive and strive, and then when genes take over as the dominating force for our longevity and our health, then okay. But let's get to that point. Let's try to control what we can for as long as we can until I. In my case, Robin, it's too late for me to hire new parents. I'm stuck with the deceased parents that I have. So I can't go back and find more athletic or smarter parents.
Yeah.
They are what they are.
And I think there are the people like yourself that were very fit and athletic and, and succeeded at a high level in that kind of activities and behaviors and goals. And then there's people that played high school sports, or maybe they played college sports, or then they played intramurals or something like that. So they moved around. And then there's people that just really didn't like to sweat, or they didn't like, or they weren't skilled at basketball or, baseball or whatever, and sports and things like that never interested them. Now you get to, my case, 63, and I think we're learning more that our parents didn't know. I talk about my mom a lot, how she retired and sat down, and she was active in high school, active as we were growing up, but then as she got older, she was a secretary her whole working life, and then she retired and she continued to sit, which has now affected her today, right? She's immobile, or she can't, her mobility is gone. So what can people do now? We're getting smarter because we're listening to people like you that are saying it's not over yet, but we do have a past, right? And how do we overcome maybe our past that we overdid, like you said earlier? Maybe we overdid or we underdid. So how do we
Goldilocks.
how do we do right? How do we get here when we've either been way over here or way over there? How do we get here so that the next 30 years are good?
That's a great, what a probing question. And if I can, back to your mom, I wish I had said these two things by very influential, powerful ladies. Queen Elizabeth II said, when you stop, you drop. So I put it in the book. I said, well, if I said that, people might listen to it, but I think people remember what a regal, elegant lady she was. She interviews her new prime minister, and then what a perfect life. Live successfully, live long, and die suddenly. Now, some of that's just plain luck. Her mom lived to well over 100, so
Right.
she had the longevity gene. Yet she worked hard with horseback riding and controlling the stress of that crazy royal family, didn't she? If Robin said, relax, Queen Elizabeth, I think she learned how to relax or she would have driven herself crazy or
Yeah,
drunk.
because that's
or too
feeling,
many
yeah,
gin and toddies,
being the
probably.
matriarch of that family, right?
So that's impressive lady number one. I have many. Impressive lady number two is Eleanor Roosevelt, who shared, and I think I can quote pretty accurately, you should do something uncomfortable every day. So we have learned in our life of opulence and abundance that we're not doing hard things as much as we used to, most of us.
Right.
There's a distribution, right? And yet, by skipping the hard things, we tend to slip into the original sins of sloth and gluttony. Food is all around us, it's abundant. We know where our next meal is. And well, I got a twinge. I have a niggle in my shoulder. I don't think I can do something with the grandkids today because I hurt. Well, motion is lotion. It's a
Yeah.
platitude, but it's also a mantra that our joints need to have motion to build up the synovial fluid, what they call the joint juice, right? And if,
Right.
if you have an ache, figure out a way on your own or with help to continue to move. Because when you, as Queen Elizabeth shared, you stop moving, you may be a statistical outlier and live forever being a sloth or a glutton. But I don't like those odds. I'm trying to.
No.
The little bit I know about lies, damn lies, and statistics is you should do the best you can with the variables that you can control. Or you can accept life as being fateful and random, and there is an element to that. But I'm still going to try my best
Yeah.
to stack the cards, and or if I can't stack the cards legally, play the best hand I can. Play the
Yeah,
best hand.
well, and it is, and it's. I mean, pickleball became this big national force for people over 50. A few years ago, it's suddenly, oh, I can still go do that fun thing I like, but I don't have to run all over that big old giant court anymore, right?
You know,
Or,
though,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to share as a stretched flexologist, it wasn't golf that was the number one injury I worked with people on. It was pickleball
Was it?
because there's quick actions.
Yes,
People
there
are not
is.
used to moving and twisting because we've forgotten how to be kid-like.
Downsizing doesn't have to feel like a loss. It can feel like freedom. I'm Robin McCoy, and every month I host a free webinar called The Gentle Transition, Downsizing with Peace, Purpose, and Dignity. Whether you're planning your own move or helping a parent through one, this webinar walks you through the process in a way that's calm, human, and full of hope. Registration is free. Just click the link in the show notes, and I'll see you there.
So there are many, many pickleball injuries because weekend warriors and warriorettes have forgotten that you've got to move your body in three planes and warm up. The social aspect is extraordinarily important. There are, I believe, very credible studies. I'm very happy in solitude of running or rowing by myself, but I'm much more happy in the camaraderie, the alchemy of an 8-person crew with a coxswain because it's faster and that kind of thing. So everyone is different, and yet the social aspect of life. We do know that people that live to 100 don't eat crap. They're multi-generational families. They maintain their purpose, or what the Blue Zone in Okinawa calls ikigai, if I said that correctly. And their motion is activities of daily life. They walk. They don't drive the car. They don't get in their Tesla and drive a mile to the supermarket. That kind of thing. I believe there's 7 total reasons why people in certain blue zones have a much higher percentage of centenarians. Which, but the purpose, number one, but number two, you don't have to bungee jump or run ultra marathons to live long and live well. You have to find your own Goldilocks curve.
Because then you'll do it. So you said early when we were talking before that you have a thing about creating what do
Oh,
you call
no,
yeah, anagrams,
mnemonic aids, or
mnemonics. Yeah. So you've got a couple here. One is mornings, and the other is yours. I think is 7 Fs. Your seven S habits.
yeah. So seven
So
S is
let's talk about some of that.
Sure. The seven S's are the foundation of this first book of mine, which I launched right in the middle of COVID. Always a great time for a
Yeah.
book launch when you're a rookie self published author. But the seven S's, because I'm simple minded, I thought that a framework for thriving and striving would be one that we can remember. So seven S's, like the days of the week, they all end in Y. My seven S's all start with S's: strength, stability, stamina, stretching, anti-inflammatory sustenance, restorative sleep, and here's the takeaway: stress not. Avoid chronic stress, which is, and with your wonderful show, Relax. How do we deal? We know that life is got little acute stressors, and acute stressors are good. Butterflies before a competition are good, and yet you don't want stress to become chronic, where cortisol builds up, driving down happy hormones, serotonin,
Yeah.
dopamine, oxytocin, the endorphins of life that keep you drug free and happy. But anyway, so those are the seven S's, and I argue that composite, not everybody can do all super well. But if you were to ask me, Dave, what's most important? I say there is no most important. A postmenopausal lady with extended hot flashes probably said that restorative sleep is what she dreams for and doesn't get.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, a runner who wants to get faster for a hilly course probably should do some strength work. And the nice thing about strength work, you can develop functional strength much quicker than you can develop a big change in stamina.
Hmm.
Oh, you're getting to the age, Robin. At the age of 65, if you had one person on each side of you, let's say that Joe is over here to Dave's right. So there's Joe, Dave, and Robin. One of the three of us is going to fall this year. And we
Yeah.
know that as we get older, osteopenia, osteoporosis, bad things happen. I've never heard of a good outcome from someone going to the emergency department with a broken hip. So this
Yeah.
is absolutely critical that folks do on that curve, they do enough mobility or call it stretching and stability to avoid falls and to have enough skeletal muscle to get a bruise and not a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's age dependent, but those seven S's are indeed the framework of what I have been talking about for 6 years. That they are doable, and I say that little
Yeah.
bit extra. What is it? What is the difference between clean sustenance and ultra processed food? Well, Jack LaLanne, who by the way was a very big proponent of fitness for women, although then
Yep. I
maybe some
remember
ladies.
him when I was a kid. I remember
Um,
him.
if man made it, don't eat it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's
I
added
will.
costs.
It is, and it's and I was talking with somebody the other day about how when all these processed foods, the boxes and all that came out, it was such a convenience. They sold it as the convenience for the mom who is taking care of the family, and you can now cook good dinners faster, and it's shelf stable, and yeah, it's sitting on a shelf for a lot, not rotting for 25 years is probably not good. But it's a behavior that so many of us grew up with, right? Now my mom cooked a lot, and she cooked at home. She stayed at home. We had gardens. We had all those things. But then you get me off on my own, and I'm in college, and it's pizzas and macaroni and cheese
The
and
freshman
all of that.
15.
No, and it was, yeah, and I think it was more than 15, because there's a lot of beer involved at that time too. So, but and now it's like you get to here, and it's harder to find healthier foods.
and
They're
may
more
cost more.
expensive,
Yeah,
and
it
now
may
I've got
cost
to
more.
cook, and now my time. I've got to come home, and I've got to like chop it up, and I've got to cook it, and I've got, So I think people find it challenging on that, quality sustenance piece
It,
to achieve that more than not.
and yet, too much ultra processed food, and I don't want to say every ultra processed food is bad, but it's processed and then reprocessed between, being in the ground. or the hoof creature that ate something in the ground that we eat, if you're an omnivore like I am. But the point is that those things create inflammation. Too much exercise creates inflammation. Stress creates inflammation. Your wonderful opportunity to converse is about relaxation, not sweating, and not inflaming. So, inflaming is bad, bad, bad.
It's bad.
And many ultra processed foods have inflammatory ingredients that we tend to gloss over because they're convenient. Oh, by the way, they're probably the hidden salt is also contributing to a silent killer called
Yeah.
hypertension or high blood pressure. So it's not
So
easy. It's not easy in
no,
America.
no, it's not easy in America, and you have to be very intentional about all of this,
I agree.
right? You've got to be so intentional. And when you talk about stability and, fall risks and all of these things, I've got, so in my real life, when I'm not doing this fun thing, I'm doing a fun thing called real estate where I sell houses. And a large portion of my clients, I kind of laugh and say, as I got older, so did my clients and their parents. And we started running into situations that we hadn't seen before. And, because I was working with first and second time buyers for a long time until then we all grew up and got old, and now our parents are older, and these fall risks are real.
Counter heights,
Yeah.
handrails, single story,
Single
lots of
stories is a
changes.
big one. And those throw rugs that slip and fall and things like that, because you said it. Nothing good came out of it comes out of a trip to the ER and a broken hip. Nothing good comes out of that.
Nothing I found. I agree, Robin.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And so I think I look at these things. Now, sleep, I really don't have a problem with. I can go to sleep in a heartbeat
Good for
pretty much
you.
anywhere.
Good for you.
That one I've never had a problem with.
You're
But
blessed.
some of the other things, right? It's if it's not something that you like to do. I don't like to get up at 5:30 in the morning and go work out with my boot camp group. And there will be weeks that I don't go. But then I get up on a Monday and I go, "Oh, let's go." So, we have to do the things we don't necessarily like doing or want to do because it is important to our longevity and our overall well-being.
And I totally agree, Robin. And golly, we could perhaps try to convince others if they're not convinced. One of the lemonades that came out of COVID-19, that terrible pandemic, was the government actually put a value on the replacement cost of Robin or Dave, or if Joe was still over here, Joe. And in my, I think it's a credible way. It's not exact algorithm. You're worth $10 million regardless of how many houses you sell, because the government would invest enough. The government would invest $10 million to keep you alive. So I'm saying you are a $10 million superwoman. I'm a $10 million Superman, no matter my kryptonite, my spinal fusion, my cancers. I'm still a valuable portfolio. And I
Hmm.
argue the best real estate we have is the one that we look at in the mirror.
Yeah,
And if that is worth $10 million, most Americans realize that you have to invest in it
it's
through thick
interesting.
and thin to keep it alive, to stay, that portfolio you want to keep alive as long as you are, or longer for your kids. So I often correlate a fiscal bank, the business bank, with the physical bank. And if you think of the elements that we mentioned, that framework, my simple 7S framework, the cornerstone is functional strength, the ability to move stuff, to open the peanut butter jar, throw the suitcase in the overhead, or those kinds of things. The absolute foundation is endurance or stamina. It could be walking, it could be jogging, it could be safe pickleball, but moving to get the heart rate up to sweat. It is important that America learns not from temperature in the southeast or the southwest with a heat bomb or heat dome, but exercise-induced sweat, because good things happen when sweat is generated by exercise, either stretching, stability, strength, or stamina exercise is so important to sweat. In fact, one of the books I often reference, the subtitle is Sweat and the Biology of Bliss. And I think America generally has forgotten how important and how good sweat is. And then
Yeah.
you got to, oh yeah, I got to go find a shower. Big deal. You're a $10 million portfolio. Go find a shower.
Go find a shower. Yeah, I mean, when you put it that way, because we are money values mean something, right? It's not, well, this is my health, and this is, I want to feel good. Okay, it's worth $10 million. That it puts a different perspective maybe on
I
it for
hope
you.
that it does because back to your earlier comment, which is spot on, there are reasons why people that don't do uncomfortable things like get up to go with a boot camp. A couple things about boot camp. Number one, sometimes a buddy workout or a boot camp workout gets you there. If you can't do it by yourself and head out the front door to get your morning sweat, do it with someone else. Second thing is to become a student of your endeavor and maybe understand what it takes to build your physical bank
Yeah.
or your physical retirement account up. And the third, for those of us with a competitive bent, and I argue part of the great 250 years of America's experiment and our exceptionalism is that we are competitive, we're innovative, we're adaptable. So I say the third element. So the first is surround yourself with good resources, including buddies and boot camps. The second is to be a true student of your endeavor to figure out what's important to you. Or if you don't understand the importance of a $10 million portfolio, I can, send people a link to
Yeah.
say, you know,
We can figure that out.
and then number three is to train like your number two. Always train like someone's better than you because Americans are competitive by nature, not by lifestyle. Unfortunately, because we did mention gluttony and sloth.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, we love to compete. We don't like coming in second. I say use that to your advantage, and maybe that'll get you up and getting going on your workout is delayed because of a work conflict or whatever. Find a way to get something in. A 15-minute stretch with, people say, hey, Dave, I only have 5 minutes. So they say, good. Do a couple world's greatest stretches, turn on Flower by Moby, and then do squats for 3 minutes and 26 seconds. And if your thighs are not aching with solid squats in 3 minutes and 26 seconds, you're a superwoman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if they're not, put a weight vest on or get goblets or something. We, not just Americans, but our bodies by evolution respond to imposed demands. It's called the SAID principle, specific adaptations to imposed demands. So as Dave said, by imposing more challenges, this when you started boot camp however long ago, it's probably a different regimen now, right? Because you're fitter,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
need to adapt, and our bodies love that those additional imposed demands to keep growing.
Well, and that's where the weight vest people come in, right? The people that, okay, now I can walk that 2 miles just fine. Now I'm going to put the vest on because it's still 2 miles, but that impact of the 2 miles
Is
is
lessened.
different.
The fitter you get, you have to do something differently to get to benefit from the imposed demands. So yes, the fitter you get, you either have to walk faster, walk longer, or change the terrain.
Get
Walking
on
on a
start
treadmill
walking up a hill or something.
walking at a 15-degree angle. I don't like treadmills, but walking on some slope of 15 degrees is the same almost as sprinting. Isn't that interesting?
Huh.
So you're
Yeah.
fighting
Yeah.
gravity and that trigonometry stuff I don't really understand. But we should be able to figure out ways to immerse ourselves and do tougher things because we need to, or we slip into boredom. I can't because. So we want people to say yes and, not yes but. Yes, and I can figure out a way
Yeah.
to invest in my $10 million portfolio. Not yes, but I'm tired.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to remember the 10 million part when I want to stay in bed,
Not with
regardless of how hot
inflation.
it is right now. Because when it's still 90 degrees, I'm in Dallas. So, it's 100 degrees these days. And so it's often still 90 degrees outside at 5 o'clock in the morning. It can be 80, 90 degrees out there. And So, but that's not a good excuse,
Well,
you know?
it is a valid excuse and it is a prompt to adapt. And if you
Yeah.
have to exercise indoors where water retention and not losing too much minerals, if that's an issue because of the heat and humidity, change your
Yeah, I just don't
operating
want to be
condition.
out there. I just don't want to get up. That's really what it is. I'm not going to lie to you.
But there are ways to help. Certainly, make sure that you have water. I always
Yeah.
say take a kerchief, or a guy. You don't have to. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about what people say at 5 in the morning. Take a kerchief and cool down. Generally, most of the heat is in our head.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if your head is cool, you see a water fountain, put the kerchief, put a do rag on your head or
Yeah.
whatever. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Well, and it is. And I think, you know, it's really got to be. There's this woman on Facebook or Instagram or something, and she has walked like every single day, literally for 3 years. She is goes out and walks in the heat, in the cold, on a treadmill if the weather is not, it's she's in like Pennsylvania or something like that. So
Mhm.
some days there's ice and snow out there that you can't, or it's pouring rain. But every single day she has walked for 3 years, and I find that so inspiring because that's really, for some people, that is what it takes to get started, and it's doing your heart good for just going. We Are One Heart is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to bridging the gap between the needs and resources of low-income seniors and veterans. Rooted in compassion and love, our mission is to provide housing, living assistance, and access to critical resources that ensure dignity and support for the elderly in underserved communities. At the heart of We Are One Heart's work is the belief that every individual shares a common humanity, a heart connected through love and care. We are committed to creating a future that honors those who have shaped the past by offering programs and services that enhance their quality of life. For more information or to donate, visit wa1h.org. That's WA, the number 1h.org. And it does this good too, right? I've been talking with a lot of people about our brain health lately
Good for you.
and how we've got to keep that noggin sharp and do our part to keep our noggin sharp. That's what one of my guests, that's her line.
Ah,
And it's the social, like you talked about, right? You're happy solo rowing, but you're really happier with, you know, a team of
team.
guys out there doing it.
There's
My
no
boot
I in
camp is
crew.
better.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no I in
yeah.
crew.
And I won't, it's because people are expecting me that gets you going quite often, right?
And
So that's when you find the partner.
no matter how exciting one's livelihood is, you may love every minute that you're at the job, but it's a job, it's a commitment. And I ask, could we get more people committed when they realize the benefit? If 55 years ago, when I started rowing, I heard people tell me, why would you work that hard? Figure out how many hours you exercise for the next 50 years and tell me there's a return on investment. And I said, I don't think we know enough. Now we do. Now that above the government standard of 150 minutes of moderate activity a week, I'm sure you're above it, and I would wish that more Americans would. Where that 150 minutes comes from, it's the first knee in the curve that shows with even that modest amount of motion, you lessen your chances for cardiovascular disease and diabetes. So
Yeah.
it's a health curve, not a fitness curve. I mean, they're related, but so my point is that if people look at things a little bit differently, people are creative in business. Be a little creative about what's really important. If I'm facing a 300% return on my invested capital, what is capital? Sweat, motion, moving heavy stuff, putting on the weight vest, doing something because our
Yeah.
bodies thrive on it. Our bodies slip into what they call senescence, Robin. Senescence comes from the same old word root as the Senate and senile. So who wants to be like the Senate and who wants to be senile? Why do we want to become
Sometimes I think our
senescent?
Senate is senile.
I'm fascinated by that word origin. Yet senescence means that our bodies need a tune-up because we've lapsed into sloth and gluttony, and our bodies can generally purge with fasting, with exercise, with hot and cold showers, things like that. We can purge dead cells out of our bodies.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, even our eyes and our hearts are not the same as what we were born with. I think it's the heart, believe it or not, that by the day you die, your heart isn't 100% replaced, but most of it is replaced. So we're not the
Really?
same person
Yeah.
we were when we were born. But when things are senescent, that's sludge, that's clogging. These cells don't function well, but they don't get purged. And again, the ways to avoid being like the Senate or being senile or senescent is to sweat, to hot and cold showers. Obviously, the muscle between your ears is important, and fasting. Those are ways to try to help tune yourself up so that you can thrive and strive.
I love it. I love it. Well, what would you say if we've talked about a lot of different things here today, and hoping that people will not think that their time is, it's too late for me,
Ah,
right?
better late than
So, what,
later. Better late
that's
than
right.
later.
Because if people say, it's too late for me, it's too late for me. And it's not. So,
Bogus.
what would you say
Bogus.
to those folks that may be kind of saying that in their heads right now?
Yeah, and this sounds like a platitude. But, there's really not a big difference between ordinary and extraordinary. It's just a little bit extra. And
Yeah,
in book
yeah.
number 3, I asked people in many cases if you could find 15%, 15%. That's the difference between like a B minus and an A, or a B minus and an A. And in school, did you figure out a way to go from a B minus to an A? Yes, you did. Why?
Where's the
Because it was
extra credit?
important, or
Teacher, can I get
because
some extra credit?
there you go. So maybe that extra credit is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
15% less empty calories, for instance. Or could I work on my heart rate variability to raise it by 15% by chilling more, by breathing better, by meditating a little bit more so that fight and flight doesn't drive my feed and frolic? I think most of us would rather feed and frolic than fight or flight, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
heart rate variability, the higher it is, means that our parasympathetic nervous system, the feed and frolic, butts heads with the fight and flight cortisol.
Yeah, yeah.
The higher the score means you're doing a good job and you're chill. Your show is about relaxing, so find ways to relax. I didn't find a mnemonic for relax because I couldn't.
That's okay.
By the way, morning,
That's all right.
you did mention morning. It starts with Make Your
Uh-huh.
Bed, the wonderful book by a
Well,
Texas
there's always a
grad.
husband in mind, though. There's still a husband in mind when I get up.
Well, tell him to make the bed. That's even better because you're going to boot camp, right?
I'm
But then
gone.
The G is gratitude, and all the other letters.
Yeah,
It's in the book, Robin. But
it's in the book.
but
We're gonna
the
make
G
sure we
is
tag all your
gratitude.
books and everything, so everybody knows how to go find these mnemonics, and they can like put them on their bathroom mirror. So here's your 7S habits. Here's your morning. This is at least a step in the right direction, right?
You want to know what embrace is?
Sure, sure.
This isn't thoroughly vetted by Dr. Google, but E is for your G, your energy flow. M, motivation, right? One of the great social skills. On those mornings when you don't feel like doing it, tying the shoelaces is the hardest part. B, the building blocks of your physical bank, those 7 S's. R,
Yep.
rest and recovery. Try to find ways to have your parasympathetic feed and frolic, and beat heads with the fight and flight. A, active. Motion is lotion. When you stop, you drop, as Queen Elizabeth said. C is commitment. And again, if you're thinking about maintaining or building a portfolio in real estate and other lines of business, what do? There's income, statements and there's profit and loss. Well, we want to profit, we don't want to lose unless it's white fat. But it does require commitment. Sometimes it does seem like work. Eleanor Roosevelt said it, do something uncomfortable because
Yeah.
we need to. The E is the endorphins, the hormones. People say, I'm tired, I'm overweight, my joints hurt. It may not be their fault. It probably isn't their fault. But we do know that our medicine 2.0 will give you a drug to help you lose white fat. But guess what? You also lose muscle when you
Yeah.
when you take a GLP-1, the tirzepatide, and all those fancy sounding things that are very expensive, hopefully getting cheaper and hopefully saving lives. But we don't
Yeah.
know how to sustain life after people lose the white fat. We hear that if they're not very careful, the white fat creeps in again. One of the best books ever is, you want to read a wake-up call, read The Amazing Story of Fat by Sylvia Tara. I'm looking for it. Her lifelong battle as a tiny little PhD researcher, it's not her fault. And, she did a tiny little salad when everybody else is having a nice,
Yeah.
surf and turf because her hormones were not helping her. So if there's a wake up call, even if it's not your fault, I'm not looking for blame. I'm looking
No.
not for absolution either. I'm looking for actions. I'm looking for commitment. And I'm looking for ways that you can stimulate the happy hormones, the dopamine,
Yeah.
the serotonin, and the hugging hormone. Who doesn't want more hugging hormone, right? I
There's a
don't.
leader in our company that says if you don't get 7 hugs a day, it'll make you weird.
Ah, well, gee, I better start counting.
I know, right? You get weird if you don't get 7 hugs a day.
So that's my embrace
I
mnemonic
love it.
aid.
I love it. I
And
love it.
it really does try the more I wrote it in book number 3, which hopefully is coming out this year. If I wasn't a intellectual property lawyer, I would have loved to have been smart enough to become an endocrinologist to understand how these hundreds and hundreds of little messengers, these little proteins in our body, the peptides, the GLP-1s, how these, some are natural and some degrade with age, all that sort of stuff. I'd love to understand it so that we could individualize ways to sustain our $10 million physical
Yeah.
bank.
Yeah.
I
I
would.
thought it was interesting when you said that maybe another decade or more before we can say this is what's going to work for Robin's body, this is what's going to work for Dave's body, and this is what's working for Joe's body, and we can do it, right? Not because you're a woman and you're this age, or you're a man and you're that age, and you weigh this or you've had that. This is what, you know what I mean? Things can be more individualized, because regardless if if we are the same age and the same gender and lived in the same environment, we're still very different people.
Amen. And that makes the world great, and yet it makes it tougher to help people achieve something which many think is too hard, too fast, too long, which is to thrive and strive, which is to gain 7 to 12 extra vital years without multiple chronic conditions. Isn't it extraordinary, Robin, that 80% of cancers and diseases are largely preventable? I mean, some you're born with. I
Yeah.
get it. I mean, my skin cancers, my mom had it, my sister had it. So I'm prone to skin cancers. Luckily, technology helps with that. And yet, so many of the conditions we face, including our number one killer, atherosclerosis, cardiovascular disease, is we can change the aging trajectory if we can't
Yeah.
prevent it, but we have to start at age 20 when these problems start to occur. Modern medicine, Western medicine, waits till you're 71 to say, oh, Dave, you have the coronary arteries of a 92-year-old.
You're like, well, that's not good.
Thanks,
That
Doc.
doesn't sound good.
Now, is
Tell
that the
me
good
some more
news or the
good
bad
news.
news? So hopefully we'll do better at realizing that, Ben Franklin, God bless Ben Franklin and Poor Richard's Almanac, an ounce of prevention, right? An ounce of
Yeah. Yeah.
remediation beforehand instead of post-trauma, our bodies are so very good at hiding conditions and diseases like blood pressure, like coronary artery calcification, like organic cancers, some of which are apparently preventable due to lifestyle and inflammation. These are things that fascinate me, and these are exciting times because we've never had so much knowledge. Some of it's fake knowledge, of course, and now we're worried about that with large language models. But
Yes.
we've never been so smart to realize we don't know what we don't know, and yet our longevity is, yes, because we're better at keeping heart attack victims alive, and because we're not smoking, our longevity is about where it was 30 years ago. Is that progress? Is that progress?
I don't
Tell me
know.
again how
I
much
don't
you're
think
paying for
so.
Medicare to keep me
Yeah.
alive,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's crazy. And, we could talk about this all day, right? You've given us a ton to think about. And my hope is that the folks that are listening, that they don't think it's all too late for them,
Never
that
too late.
regardless of what age you are, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 60, 90, 80, whatever age you are today, and whatever your current health status is, that, like you said, that 15% more, can you do something 15% better to, increase everything? It's just so you feel better, so that, you live longer if that's what you choose to do, but that you enjoy your life while you are still here, because ain't nobody getting out alive. We haven't figured that piece out yet. So,
I was going to share that one of my boathouse, I call him my boathouse philosopher, reminded me that none of us are going to get out of it alive, but apparently that works in Texas too.
that's right. Ain't nobody getting out of here alive. So you might as well enjoy what you got here, because one day we ain't waking up, and that's
But what a
that's
way,
the truth.
isn't that, if it's at a long age, and if you don't have multiple chronic conditions, and it's your day.
Yeah, it's good, right? So, well, you've given us a lot to think about. We are going to put all your resources and your books and all that in our show notes so that people will have access, to the information that you shared with us. So I so appreciate you coming on today and, giving us some of the more things to think about.
Yeah, and again, the message I'm sure many of your other your wonderful guests, and then there's me, but your guests have talked about is, those SMART goals.
Yeah.
You can't pick, why do New Year's resolutions fail? Because of lack of commitment, because they pick the wrong goals.
Yeah.
That's why I
Make sure
say
it's an
start
intention.
small.
Yeah.
Start
And
small.
do it with intention that there's meaning behind it, right? What is the meaning? Why do you want to do this? Because my mother can no longer get out of bed, so I want to make sure that when I'm 89, she has turned 90 this week. So when I'm 90, that I am not in bed, right? So setting those goals with intention, that means something. And then I think you can get that commitment a little closer.
Ah, well, good for you. Best to
Yeah.
your mom. Hey, she beat
Thank
the
you.
actuarial odds. But again, the idea is for all of us is to live well and die suddenly. I mean, I
Yes,
think
that may be my next tattoo. Live well and die suddenly. All right, Dave, thank you so much for being on the show today. I so appreciate it.
Robin, it was my pleasure, and I hope that again that your listeners might pick up a hack or two to realize yes, they can. Yes, they can.
Yes, they can. All right. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60. Make sure you share and hit subscribe and all those good things you're supposed to do, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. I know you have plenty of choices for your ears, and I'm honored you chose Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60. If today's episode sparked a question, a story, or even a strong opinion, I want to hear it. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. You can even email me directly at robin@relaxigotthis.com. And yes, I actually read them, and I actually reply. And if you're looking for more tools, guides, and resources to help you keep embracing life after 60, head over to relaxigotthis.com/resources. It's all there waiting for you when you need it. Until next time, take a deep breath and remember, you've got this. And if you ever feel like you don't, well, that's why I'm here. Relax. I got this.